Okay, a couple of things. First is, as you can see, I'm using a high lift jack off the front corner of my bumper, and this is to unload that corner of the suspension. And the reason why I'm doing that is because without it, I can't get access to this bolt, and the springs are in the way for the rest of this bolt. With it jacked up partially, I have full access to this bolt here, this bolt here, this bolt here. Also, the other thing is, you notice I got a big ass metal pan underneath. This way to keep the power steering fluid from dribbling all over the place. Okay, now time for removing the pump. The pump is actually, removing the pump's retarded this simple, but a lot of this serpentine belts for some reason kick people's asses and I have no clue why, so just to simplify things I'm going to point it out. Okay, if you look right here, see these two little squares? Okay, those will fit a 3/8 ratchet. You stick the 3/8 ratchet into the square hole, you turn the idler, you turn the tensioner arm, and it will loosen up your friggin' serpentine belt. Take the serpentine belt off, and then there's 4 bolts that you access through the holes in the power steering pump pulley to get the power steering pump off. Okay, now that we have the steering box out, it's actually I left the pitman arm attached. The reason why is it's a little bit easier to work this shit outside of a vehicle than it is to work it inside the vehicle. Then I can clamp the bitch down in a vise and I can get a good grip. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you is a trick to removing tie rod ends, pitman arms, anything like that that gets a compression fitting on a taper. What you do is, well, mind you, I can't operate the camera and use both hands, but you take 2 big fucking hammers like this, okay? And at the same time, with both hands, once you loosen up the nut, you'll go and take and whack both sides right here at the same time with 2 hammers, okay? What that does is it squeezes together, that goes and squeezes together the ductile iron and pushes on the taper, allowing it to pop off, okay? If you're good at it, you can do it. You can remove pitman arms, tie rod ends, without even having to use a pitman rod or a tie rod end remover, and it works very well. Okay, now here we have the Poly Performance tube clamp. This one, the inside diameter is correct for their tie rod end. So whatever clamp you do use, if you're going to use a clamp, make sure that it's the correct size for whatever the fuck tube you're clamping it to. As you can see, I already welded my bracketry on here. Made sure it's all gusset to fuck because of the amount of load that's going to be pressed on it. And as you can see, it's made of a nice clamshell design, and as you can see by the heat discoloration, I definitely got full penetration into it, so I know that it's not going to go anywhere. And what it'll do is it'll go and clamp directly around the tie rod end, and that'll be the mounting point for it. And as you can see here, I have a fucking audience. If any of you guys are in the Virginia or Norfolk area and you want a cat, this one, the handsome black and white cat, is free. The poofy little cute one there, she's also free. And there's a tabby one that you can't see that you can come and have. We rescued the little fuckballs and they now need a home. Thanks. Okay, everything's just about buttoned up. We got our lines all plumbed, tightened, all of our bolts are tightened, power steering pump is reinstalled, tensioners replied, all that shit. Okay, now what I'm doing here is I'm mocking up the steering ram. And what you want to do is you want to go and measure out your ram and find what the full travel of it is, and then divide it by half. This way you can get a start point of where your mount is going to be. Now, the other thing you want to do is once you get everything plumbed up, you want to figure out what is going to be the correct direction for the lines for the ram. So all you do is you connect the lines up to the ram, run and purge the system, but do not connect the ram to any 2 points. You know, you can like connect it to the tie rod, but don't connect the other end or whatever. And then steer the wheel, and there'll be a delay, there'll be a pause, because once you turn the wheel, the cylinder has to reach its full travel to that direction before the pressure goes through the steering box and then turns the steering wheel that direction as well. And what you'll do is once you you'll feel the pause, let it extend all the way, and then look and see what direction the ram is going. And then mark those lines, or mark the location of what direction the ram's going. So how my lines are ran right now, the with the cylinder mounted where it is, the left line will go to the left port and the right line will go to the right port. Also, you can see how I'm mocking up my mount. I have my tube clamp over to the right. Okay, and over to the left I'm starting to do some mock-up for my other bracket. And as you can see, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the mount to mount parallel and in line with the tie rod. The reason why you want to do that is so that the ram is not pushing out or pulling in on the tie rod. If everything's in line, it's going to not strain anything, not put any weird torque shit, and it's going to work the best. So what I'm going to do next is, once I get everything mocked up and everything's where I want it to be, I'll go and I'll whip out the welder and I will weld in that mount. Ignore those two stacked plates, it's just there so I don't have to crank down the nut all the way. I'll tack those two mounts in place, weld them in, then check out my travel and make sure nothing's binding and nothing's doing anything stupid. And as you can see, we're pretty much done here. Just gotta finish bleeding the system and breathe through its paces, but you have the Poly Performance tube clamp there, my custom mount on that end. Made sure that the hoses aren't snagging on anything, make sure that the system is cycling fully, and as you can see, the cylinder is pretty much parallel exactly to the tie rod, so it shouldn't bind up. Sorry, got distracted. Okay, now time for bleeding, the most boring part of the fucking job. First thing you do is, with the engine off, you go and you jack the wheels up off the ground. And then you go and you turn the wheel full lock to full lock with the friggin' engine off, okay? And you go all the way one way, and then you go all the way the other way. And you do this a bunch of times. And you go and you check your fluid and you refill it. What this does, you're manually cycling the fluid through the ram, through the box. Once you do this a bunch of times, then you start up the Jeep. Then what you do is the same thing. You bring it all the way to full lock, hold it there for a second, and then all the way to full lock again. Okay? Now, you're going to get cavitation. It's going to sound like ass the first couple of times. And you do this a bunch of times. Then, once you're done with it, you go and you turn off the engine, you go inside, have a beer, don't do dick. Let all the bubbles get out. Also, I want to show you the benefit of the little friggin' Air Force gauge. Okay? As you can see, one of the program features is it'll tell me my steering angle. So, I can, when I go and I have it off, I can bring it back to 0. And I know that my steering wheel is straight. Then this way when I set my drag link and everything, I could set it square to the steering wheel. There are other ways to cheat. Just fucking eyeball it or bring it in for a front end alignment.